Let me tell you how you pick a good home inspector.
Where do I start? What would be my starting point?
Well, number one, it's always good to keep in mind, don't let yourself get boxed into a corner in terms of time. Okay? So do your homework. What you want to do is get a list of home inspectors out of the yellow pages or from 5 agents or whatever, and then you decide not to work with any of those. So that's your first benchmark. Avoid the home inspectors the real estate agents recommend. Why? Because why are they recommending them? They're recommending them because they will help them with the purchase, typically. And that's the quid pro quo. I give you this, you give me that. Anybody watching this video, I would think, would have enough market savvy to get that there's a conflict of interest. The next thing that you do is you can go to the Yellow Pages or another place, that ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors, and get a list of 10 or 15 inspectors in the neighborhood where you're planning to go.
So does ASHI have ASHI? Do they have a website?
Yeah, ASHI has a website. It's called ASHI.org. And you can go on there and punch in your zip code that you're moving to, and they'll give you 20, 30 home inspectors, or 10. Call them up.
Yeah, but first I take those 20, 30, I kick out the ones that I got from real estate agents.
Yeah.
And now I got down to 5, 10.
Yeah, maybe you're down to 5 or 10. And so here's what I call Tom's Jiu-Jitsu. On those 5 or 10, I don't care, you gotta have time to do this. You're gonna spend $300,000, $500,000, or $1 million on a house. For God's sake, you gotta have enough time to make sure you're getting a good home. Do your homework on the home inspector. So what you do is, out of those 5 or 10, you or your wife or your kids or somebody in the family calls them up. And the conversation that has worked for my clients in the past goes like this. Let's say the guy's name is Jim. Hey Jim, I hear you're in the home inspection business. Jim says, yeah. You say to Jim, hey Jim, we're moving to Chicago and we are working with some professional real estate agents on the north side. Which professional real estate agents do you work with, Jim? Because we'd like to check you out a little bit. Now, you're creating an opening where Jim can tell you about all the wonderful referrals he gets from the real estate community. And the minute he starts telling you which agents refer him, you cross him off the list.
That is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And if you want to find an independent person, and by the way, you don't have to look very far to find out how important this is, whether it's been Dateline or 2020 or Chicago, where Pam Zeckman did an expose about it. It's a common theme to do exposés on home inspectors who are conflicted with the real estate community, okay? So when you start finding a couple of guys who they can't think of the professional agents that recommend them, now you're in the right direction. In my best Chicago accent, what we would say is, you got to check out some of these guys who, who don't have any agents that refer them. And then you check out to see if they're been in business very long. So you ask the guy on the phone, how long you been doing home inspections professionally? And if the guy says 10 years, you should be able to go to the Yellow Pages in 5, 8, 9 years ago and see if he's got an ad in there. And if he don't, he's probably not telling you the truth. Right?
Hey, Tommy.
What are you talking about?
Tommy. Where I come from in New Jersey, we'd say you do South Side Chicago pretty good.
Yeah, well, you guys in New Jersey, you learn a few things. But in Chicago, just look at the Bears.
I call you Tommy, you call me Joey.
So you narrow it down, you find out how long these guys have been in business, if they're ASHI members. I like ASHI. The reason I do is because you have to take a test. All the other organizations that I know of, you got a few $100, bada beam, bada boom, you're a member, you know. And I'm sure they're getting better, but if you do the research on it, our industry, the home inspection industry, is beholden to the real estate community. So you start calling the guys, you get rid of the guys that tell you about how they're professionally connected with the real estate community, you get rid of the list that the real estate agent gives you, Now you're down to a few. You call up the guys that have been in business more than 5 years. Come on now. How many houses are you going to see if you're in business less than 5 years? So, you need somebody that's been in business 5 years.
Yeah, but the guy who's in business 5 years, how do I know he's not going to send some
Jamoke.
from his shop because he can't do it all himself?
Right. So, I mean, you got to find out who you're getting. And you got to say to the guy, look, nowadays, if you're a professional, you're going to have a website. I want to see who you're sending me. Is he on your website? What kind of background does this guy have? Okay? And the key thing, Joe, is if your home inspector's any good, in my opinion, he's going to give you a budget figure for every repair. What good is a silly home inspection if you don't have any dollar figures for the new roof? If I'm, hope I'm not too loud here, but I'm very passionate about my business. If you are getting yourself a home inspection and the guy finds out that the roof is bad and he says, write me a check for $300-400, have a nice day, and he's gone, so now you know the roof is bad, and you usually have 4 or 5 days to get your home inspection done. Now you're going to get 3 bids from 3 roofers in the next day and a half that you got left? Hey, Joe, it ain't going to happen. So you're ending up having to make the choice, do you want the house or not? Usually because you can't get 3 roofers out there in a day and a half. So your good home inspector is going to go like this. Hey, Joey, I know how much. $15,000. In Chicago, that's cheap. But for a new roof on your standard bungalow where you have to tear off all the shingles, all the wooden shakes, the 100-year-old job. And you get those prices. So you want to make sure, this is all interviewing the home inspector, you say to the guy, hey Fred, I think you're a good guy. You going to give me prices? Fred says, no. X him off the list. You need budget figures, you need a professional, and he's got to have insurance, and he should be affiliated with a professional society such as ASHI. And he's got to be licensed if it's Chicago, right? But I don't know about the license. It's not doesn't really separate the good guys from the bad guys,
Let me do some jujitsu on real estate agents right there. From what you just told me, if I were a sophisticated buyer, I would walk away from deals if I didn't know the numbers because I'd be mistrustful of it. You give the numbers on what it's going to take. Now I know what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
Aren't you making more deals and killing them?
Am I making more?
Yeah. You're actually, agents see you as a deal killer.
Yeah, they call me a deal killer. They call my whole company deal killers. It's actually been good for us.
For buyers like me, you're a deal maker.
Right.
Because now I know what I'm getting. Not only what the problems are, but once those problems are identified.
If you can afford them.
If I can afford them. Another home inspector might identify them, and now I'm, a new roof. I don't know what that means.
Right. That's what we do. And that's who you want. And I don't care if you're in Tennessee or Florida or Chicago. Show me the money. Have your home inspector tell you what it's going to cost to have these things fixed. And get that clear and specific on the phone before you hire the guy. And also make sure he's not conflicted. Is this guy a carpenter or a roofer on the side? Well, what kind of information he's going to tell you? He's going to tell you need a new roof. A lot of these guys. And so you want somebody that is a primary home inspector, that he doesn't do other stuff. He's going to give you budget figures. The agents don't like him. He's not on their list. He's been in business 5 years. He's got insurance, right? Can you take all this information? Are you guys writing this down? And he's not on the real estate agent's list, and he's a member of a professional society like ASHI. And so that's a good way to do it. And by the way, if anybody, I don't even know if any of you guys are going to watch this, but if anybody sees this, if you got 30 guys, you may have just narrowed the field down to 2.